The restaurant was alive with weekend noise, soft jazz humming under clinking glasses and murmured conversations. But at the small table near the window, everything felt strangely frozen. Ethan Miller sat with his hands wrapped around a sweating glass of water, staring at the candle flickering between him and the woman who was supposed to be his first real date in almost 5 years. Her name was Rebecca Hayes, a bright-eyed nurse with a warm smile. At least, that's what her profile picture suggested. But now, sitting across from him in the dim light, her expression carried the same nervous stiffness he felt inside. They had barely spoken a full sentence to each other, as if the silence between them was too heavy to touch. Outside, cars rolled by, the sky fading into dusk, and Ethan found himself wondering why he had agreed to this. His last attempt at dating had ended in a painful reminder of everything he had failed at. His marriage, his confidence, his belief that he could truly start again. Tonight felt like a test he wasn't prepared for, and the silence made it even worse. Just when he shifted in his seat, preparing to muster up a half-hearted question to break the awkward tension, the restaurant door suddenly burst open with a thud, and the sharp sound cut the room in half. A small girl with curly brown hair and a bright pink backpack ran inside, her sneakers squeaking loudly on the wooden floor. Her eyes scanned the room wildly, and then she froze, pointing a tiny finger straight at their table as she shouted at the top of her voice, "Daddy, that's my teacher." Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that restore faith in people, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support truly helps. Every head in the restaurant turned. Ethan felt the world stop. His heart sank, his face flushed, and he could feel Rebecca stiffen across from him. The girl, his 7-year-old daughter Lily, ran straight to him, flung her arms around his waist, and buried her face into his jacket. He blinked in disbelief, unsure whether to laugh or panic. Lily wasn't supposed to be here tonight. She was supposed to be with his sister, who had promised to take care of her until he was done with his blind date. But here she was, breathless and frantic, as if she had raced across the city. Ethan placed a trembling hand on her back, asking what happened. But before he could fully calm her, he looked up and saw Rebecca's eyes widen in pure shock. She leaned back slightly, her lips parting as she processed what Lily had just shouted. Her teacher. That was the part Ethan hadn't expected. Lily hadn't mentioned anything about a new substitute, and he felt an entire wave of embarrassment crash through him. Rebecca, on the other hand, let out the smallest laugh, the kind that escapes unconsciously when someone is caught between disbelief and amusement. And suddenly, the silent, awkward date had turned into something completely different. Lily, still out of breath, explained in a tearful ramble that she had gotten scared at Aunt Megan's house because Megan's dog had knocked over a lamp, and the crash made her panic. Instead of calling, she ran out the door, knowing exactly which restaurant her father had mentioned earlier. Ethan's chest tightened with guilt. He knew Lily still struggled with loud noises ever since the accident 2 years ago, the accident that had taken her mother. Even now, Ethan could still hear the echo of hospital machines whenever he closed his eyes at night. Rebecca's expression softened instantly, and without hesitation, she bent down slightly to Lily's level and gently brushed a strand of hair from the girl's face. She spoke in a soft, reassuring tone that carried the instinctive calmness of someone who worked with children every day. Lily blinked up at her, as if suddenly realizing who she was, and whispered, "Miss Hayes?" The recognition settled the tension immediately, and Ethan watched as the child he cared for more than anything in the world slowly uncurled her fear and replaced it with trust. Something warm flickered in Ethan's chest, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope, maybe. The waiter hurried over, concerned, and Ethan apologized repeatedly for the chaos. But Rebecca shook her head and placed a hand lightly on Ethan's arm, surprising him with her steadiness. For the first time that evening, she truly looked at him, not as a stranger across a table, but as a father doing his best. She asked if Lily wanted something to eat, and Lily nodded shyly, climbing into the seat beside her father. Ethan breathed out slowly, trying to calm the whirlwind inside him. Rebecca asked Lily simple, gentle questions, the kind designed to make her feel safe again, and in a matter of minutes, the little girl was laughing softly, tracing shapes in the condensation on Ethan's glass with her small fingers. Ethan had gone into the night fearing judgment. He expected his date to feel burdened by his baggage, his daughter, his grief, his broken confidence. But instead, Rebecca seemed more comfortable now than she had during the entire first half of the date. She glanced at Ethan occasionally with a look that carried empathy rather than pity. She noticed the exhaustion in his eyes, the way he watched Lily constantly, as if afraid she would disappear if he looked away for too long. And somehow, she didn't seem bothered. If anything, she admired it. When their food arrived, Lily ended up sitting between them, filling the silence they couldn't earlier with small stories about school, coloring activities, and how Miss Hayes always drew sunflowers on the whiteboard when the class seemed sad. The night unfolded differently than Ethan expected. Instead of a formal adult conversation about hobbies and careers, they shared quiet, meaningful moments around a child who unknowingly bridged the gap between two nervous adults. Rebecca laughed more, her shoulders relaxing, and Ethan found himself opening up more easily. He told her about losing his wife, about feeling unprepared to raise a daughter alone, and about how he had avoided dating because he feared disappointing someone again. Rebecca listened carefully, not with the forced politeness of a first date, but with genuine understanding. She shared her own challenges, how teaching was both her joy and her emotional burden, how she grew attached to her students yet struggled with loneliness after moving to town, and how she signed up for blind dating because she realized she hadn't met anyone truly meaningful in years. As Lily finished her meal, her yawns grew more frequent. Ethan prepared to call his sister to pick her up, but Rebecca gently placed a hand on his wrist and told him she didn't mind if Lily stayed. "She's part of your life," she said softly. "I wouldn't want you to hide that." It was the first time someone had said those words to him without hesitation. His chest tightened again, but this time with gratitude. The evening slowly transformed into a warm, unexpected pocket of comfort. The restaurant emptied little by little, the jazz faded into softer melodies, and Ethan realized he wasn't thinking about everything that could go wrong. He was thinking about everything that might suddenly go right. Rebecca watched him the same way he watched her, carefully, curiously, as if recognizing a gentleness they both carried, but rarely showed. Lily eventually fell asleep, her head resting on Ethan's lap, her small hand clutching his fingers loosely. Rebecca lowered her voice and said she had seen fathers like him, ones who carried grief like a shadow, but still woke up every morning determined to love their children fiercely. She told him he didn't give himself enough credit, that he was someone worth knowing. It was strange how a night that began with suffocating silence now felt like the beginning of something that breathed, something alive, something healing. Ethan found his voice more easily now, asking her real questions. What brought her joy? What she hoped her future looked like? What she believed love should be? She answered honestly, even vulnerably, and each answer made the room feel a little brighter. When the bill finally arrived, Ethan insisted on paying, but Rebecca reached out and covered his hand with hers. Her touch was light, steady, and unexpectedly reassuring. She said the night had turned into something she didn't expect, but deeply appreciated. She told him that Lily was a wonderful child, and that any man who could raise a daughter like her had already proven his worth. They walked to the parking lot together, the cool night air brushing gently against them. Ethan carried Lily in his arms, her head resting on his shoulder. Rebecca walked close beside him, offering to help open doors and gather Lily's backpack. As he carefully placed his daughter in the back seat, buckling her seatbelt as quietly as possible, he felt a soft warmth blossom in his chest. He turned to thank Rebecca one more time, but she stepped forward and hugged him tightly, resting her cheek against his shoulder. It wasn't romantic or rushed. It was warm, natural, comforting. It was the kind of embrace that said, "You don't have to carry everything alone anymore." Near the end of the night, as they stood beneath the glow of the parking lot lights, Ethan felt something shift inside him, a kind of emotional awakening he hadn't felt in years. He looked at Rebecca, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't see a stranger or a date. He saw someone who understood him, someone who could fit naturally into the quiet, beautiful chaos of his life. someone who might one day matter in ways he never expected. If this story is touching your heart so far, please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Your support truly means the world.